Diana, I got your number from your resume on LinkedIn. My name is Sarah, and I'm an old student of. And like you, we had a relationship. I don't know the circumstances of your relationship with him, but it concerns me to see his behavior continued long after I knew him. I'm curious if you would be willing to talk to me about your experience. If not, I respect that.
Sarah, I am at a loss of words, but also have so much to say. Yes, I would love to talk to you about this. Were you a student in Iowa? This is Diana.
This is Sarah.
And this is Blooming After Grooming, our podcast. Let us pick up on where we left off in this
Where
podcast
did we
of ours.
leave off?
So the police investigation, my police investigation, because you filed your own, the investigation in Illinois wrapped up at the end of July. And so that's where we left off, is what we did following the investigation. Yeah, so you had mentioned that you also filed a report in Iowa. The timeline was somewhere around the time that I did, or shortly after.
No, I have my timeline in front of me. I actually pulled up my file. Diana, I did my homework. Girl, you'd be so proud.
Clap, 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 clap.
Diana's the homework doer, not me. So, two-parter. We reported him, the teacher, to his current employer in Illinois on August 1st. I filed my police report here in Iowa August 3rd, and I don't remember who it was between August 1st and August 3rd who suggested that I do that so that I would have documentation, but somebody did along the way.
I think it was Shaughnessy, because we met with
Okay.
Shaughnessy on the 1st of August, and she gave us some
Okay.
last minute advice on what to do before sending the letters.
Okay. That would make sense then. So I filed my report on the 3rd, and then so I reported him on the 1st, then I filed the police report on the 3rd, and then you reported him in Illinois to the school on the 5th. I forgot that we also spaced them out by a few days. And then I reported him to my high school here in Iowa on August 10th. And then he was put on administrative leave on the 11th. What an adventurous 11 days we had. Holy shit. And then I filed with the Iowa Board of Education Examiners also on the 11th. So that was, I feel like August is when we just hit the fucking ground running with okay, we tried the police in Illinois. We talked about that in the last episode, the reasons that didn't go forward, but we were given a path forward from there, which was informing his current employer, informing his former employer, my school in Iowa. And the reasoning for that was if they had any documentation of misconduct or investigation into him when he had been at my school, there was going to be somebody contacting them soon, one way or another, asking for that. It was a really jam-packed August, apparently.
Oh my gosh. I was reviewing my journals and emails for today's recording, and that August, it really was every week we were working, every other day we were working on something. After the police investigation wrapped up and the assistant state's attorney made the decision to not press charges, I sent an email to Faith to update her about everything, and she responded with other options. I know, Faith, if you're listening, I know you don't like getting compliments, but you're going to keep on getting them because you're amazing. And she had said she spoke to an advocate who helped work on her law, on Faith's law, and the advocate told her, because Faith's question was, if their investigation didn't produce anything to get him fired or further investigated, then how do we protect kids from him? The advocate told Faith that we should report to the school board, to the school board of the district, and also file a complaint with ISB. So for me specifically, because it was the police investigation in my state. And so she said I should
say what ISB is.
Thank you. Okay. ISB is the Illinois State Board of Education. So when you hear me say ISB, it's the Illinois State Board of Education. And the Illinois State Board of Education, they have the school code. Every state has this kind of school code that it has code of conduct for teachers, educators, staff. This advocate suggested that I file a report there. So basically starting at the local level with the district and then working our way up to the state entity.
And I think in certain states, Kristen, where are you? I think in Iowa, I think when I reported him to, his former employer, the school I went to here in Iowa, I think the school is required to inform child services, or they're supposed to kind of move things up the line as well. Obviously, it's different when they're not an active employee. Like here with my report, it's like, they're like, cool, this guy worked here 18 years ago. Like, what the hell do we care kind of deal. I shouldn't say that. They were not like dismissive about it, but they didn't have to take the same kind of ownership over it. But I think in Illinois, yeah, there's just kind of some automatic levers that get pulled when something gets reported like that, which is why it's important to know kind of the processes that you need to go through, to kind of start getting the dominoes to fall. Yeah, because here in Iowa, it's the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners. So I-bo-ee. It doesn't sound as good as ISB. So I usually just say the whole thing. Technically, Iowa Board of Educational Examiners has like a statute of limitation on reporting, which is just a handful of years. But luckily, I had found out that you actually can still report, and they will pretty much throw their statute of limitation out the window, if you have enough evidence, or I think if a victim is willing to come forward, because a lot of cases, I mean, I heard this a lot. I don't know if Diana, you heard it as well. The victims aren't willing to be interviewed or testify because they're kids, right? So
Mhm.
like they're not capable, they're traumatized, or they were groomed and they actively think that their parents and all these adults are trying to keep them and their, star-crossed lover, away from them, and, it's us against the world kind of a thing. So I do think our situation was unique, that we were willing and able to give statements about what happened to us, and had, pretty good documentation about timelines and dates and locations.
Mhm.
And I think that's partially the reason that Iowa was willing to reopen, or was willing to throw their statute limitation out. I see in my notes that his current, at the time, current employer in Illinois legally had to inform the Department of Children and Family Services at the time of you, Diana, contacting the school and giving your statement or allegations. So yeah, there are some kind of automatic gears that get put into place when people come forward, which I think is important to point out, because we didn't know the process. We didn't know who would get informed or not informed. And I think children and family services, it made sense, but I don't know about you, but it caught me off guard when that got activated as an investigation within Illinois. Um, because you were a child at the time of the abuse, but you're clearly not a child now. So it felt kind of weird to be like actively investigated as an adult, because they reached out to me as well, the Illinois, Children and Family Services. Did that surprise you, Diana, when that got activated?
It definitely did. It surprised me that I was being contacted for abuse that happened 13 years before. The DCFS investigator, I remember, she pretty much told me, and I think she told you too, we're not going to find anything, but like this has to be
Mhm.
documented. And I think that is important, is because it shows a pattern. Because now,
Mhm.
if other people now who are now adults come forward and make a report against him or other teachers, like that's just documentation. It adds credibility to someone else who might come forward in the future. So yeah, it did surprise me a little bit. I do remember the investigator calling me, I don't know, 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks after we sent the letters, the emails, and her saying that she interviewed the teacher, and her words exactly were, "He gave me the heebie-jeebies."
Yeah. She was like, "Ugh." Like, pretty much if that sound effect could be a word, that was the vibe that she gave us. And we were like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
I do remember, so we met with Shaughnessy, like I said, on the 1st of August, and she was the one that advised that we send them separately and to kind of
Mhm.
stagger them out. And she also made suggestions on, like, details to add. Like, remember she suggested adding facts like that he was good at it, that he is good at grooming. And then she also suggested to hold off on sending it to the media. So
Mm.
again, thank you, Shaughnessy. And by letters, I want to clarify that. So the email it's an email. I emailed the Illinois State Board of Education, the principal of the school, the English department chair, and the school board president. The letter that I had planned on sending the teacher, and then after that, more of like, "This is what I'm asking of you. I'm just asking
Mhm.
you to investigate him." Who did you send? Did you send it to the same people?
I sent it to definitely the district in Illinois. And my email, same kind of thing. It was my original letter, I think that we, back in the spring, we were like, we're gonna send this to everyone in the world and they're all gonna save the day. I don't know that I edited it a lot from that point, but it was just very forward and factual. This is what happened to me. This is who did it to me, and this person is in your building and using your classroom as a hunting ground to abuse kids. And I don't think I mentioned you at all in the email. And that was another suggestion that we had received before sending the emails, which just goes back to like how shitty the whole system is for survivors. Cause we were definitely given coaching that we had to be careful about not sending the emails at the same time, not acknowledging that we knew each other, not that we were lying, but just not disclosing it on the front end so that we couldn't be written off as air quotes disgruntled ex-girlfriends who were just trying to destroy our ex-boyfriend's life, which is like such a infuriating thing to even have to fucking consider. And I would say this whole process of coming forward was just full of these moments, right? Where people would have to be like, listen, I believe you. I'm on your side. I'm happy to help you. But like, you have to be mindful of this is the reality of our society, or this is the reality of these systems, or this is the reality of how people are going to try to dismiss what you're saying. So you don't, because we were very, I don't even know if that point, I don't even think we were connected on social media yet because we didn't want people to be able to
Oh,
look us up and see
yeah.
that we were friends. We had to like put all of our shit on private on social media so they couldn't see anything of ours that could be used to discredit our character. Like it was such a mind fuck to have to be like, all I'm trying to do is have a predator removed from a classroom who we know from firsthand has groomed and sexually abused two minors. And we're having to play this weird game to hide our identities so that we can't be turned into a villain. Like, it's just such an unexpected aspect of the
Yeah.
experience.
And, as you were saying that, I was getting a little emotional and it was a little surprising because, that doesn't happen very often. But I
No,
think
you're like a steel trap over there.
only when I'm around other people. But I think it is making me emotional because, and we mentioned this in our last episode, the Sean Combs and Cassie
Mm,
Ventura case. My heart breaks. It's making me emotional again. Just, I think a lot of victims of abuse, like, saw that and
mhm.
were just heartbroken for her. There's, like, so much evidence, like, there is video footage of him, like, literally kicking her. That's the a human who kicks another human, like, while they're like, it's just disgusting, and he was
Mhm.
still not found guilty on the, like, big charges. Like, and
Yeah.
maybe he'll face 10 years. Yeah, right, he won't. It makes me so mad that people think anyone would fake this, that we would just make these lies up for fun, for money.
Yeah. Um, and sadly, those kind of big profile cases is a big reason a lot of people don't come forward because it's like, "Well, dude, why is anyone going to believe me if they didn't believe her? And if she had all that evidence, how am I ever going to prove this?" And I mean, like, the percentage of abusers that actually end up with being prosecuted is like 4 fucking percent. It's terrible. Which is why I do think there needs to be reform on a legal level, but then also investment in other forms of justice or healing or, something else that, survivors can kind of look to. But again, I don't think it's fair to put all that labor on the survivor to be like, oh, well, you have to find a way to like move forward and you have to find a way to do this. It's like, there is also something that needs to happen with these perpetrators and these abusers. And I'm not saying that prison is the end all be all solution to all those. I mean, Jesus, we could go on about that as its own podcast of, the various issues with the for profit fucking criminal system in the United States has a lot of its own problems. The solution can't just be letting these assholes go out on the street and be repeat offenders, which
Mhm.
unfortunately is what a majority of them do. In our
Yeah.
case, like the teacher did not stop with me. He moved on to you while you were with him out of, after you graduated high school, he was still messaging, texting with students. Like you busted him doing that. So he's clearly was trying to abuse
Mhm.
other students while he was still with you. We have no idea what he did. The
After
years between
2015? No idea.
exactly, between 2015 and him being put on administrative leave in 2022, we have no clue what he was doing. Shit, we don't know what he's doing right now. Like, he could be, as we have said, he could be on chat rooms on the internet trying to fucking groom somebody as we speak. We don't know. But the point is like people don't just change. Like because who's changing them? Like it's not like you and I came forward and part of the outcome of these investigations was that he had to go to therapy and he had to be analyzed and he had to seek out mental health care to unravel whatever broken part of his fucking psyche led him to have these behaviors. That's not the solution in our society right now. And so he has received no treatment. And now he's just a person who has been disgraced and is angry and lost his job, which in the hands of certain people could make him 10 times more dangerous. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's not a good system. Like it just doesn't work well.
It's not a good
Um
system for anyone. Like this,
no.
it has consequences for so many people that he's just like allowed to be out there.
And
Yeah.
same with P. Diddy, right? So, like, if P.
Mhm.
Diddy ends up not and you're right, even if they charge him with 10 years, he fucker's not gonna serve 10 years. It's not how that works. He's too rich. He has too many friends. It's not gonna work out that way. And that's the other thing. You and I, at least, came forward about a teacher that most people didn't like, right? That really helped us because I don't know about you, but so many times when I was giving statements or doing interviews with people, people would ask, is this person popular? Is he a pillar of his community? A lot of times these groomers are.
Yeah.
Most of the time they're very liked. They can be teacher of the year.
They're very good at grooming everyone. Very good at manipulating the people around them and blending in.
So we had a little bit easier that most people really didn't like our abuser. And so it did not take a big leap of faith, I think, for a lot of people to believe what we were saying. But I can't imagine having to come forward against someone who was rich and famous and powerful and popular. Like, what a fucking unbelievable uphill battle that must have been just to even come forward and to have it turn out the way that it did is just yeah, it's heartbreaking. I don't think there's another word that's better for it than that.
Back to our story. Okay, so yes, August. August was
We sent our emails to the district. Somebody from the district, I don't know, it was the superintendent, called me
yes, it
back
was a superintendent.
within 30 minutes, an hour of sending
I
that
was gonna
email.
ask if it was the same day because I think
It
it
was
was the same day.
so fast. So, like, I just wanna, like, we're listing off some facts and some details, but I also just wanna get into, like, the back end experience of doing that, of, like, A, sending those emails is extremely stressful and nerve-wracking as all of these steps were, but then B, receiving a call back from the district that quickly, I think really surprised both of us. Very appreciated on my part, and I will
Mhm.
say that the superintendent that I spoke with from Illinois handled that call very well and was very respectful. And the language that was used was, I'm very sorry this happened to you. I'm taking this very seriously. Like there was no, I'm sorry that you think this happened to you. You know what I mean? It was non confrontational. It was acknowledging my truth. It was confirming that they had received the information and then explaining what the process would be moving forward. And I was impressed. I didn't know really what I was expecting, but I certainly wasn't expecting it to be that prompt. Did you also receive a call the same day when you sent your email?
I think it was the same day, and it was a Friday, and it was, like, the Friday before the teachers were supposed to be going back for, like, institute days.
Oh, that's right. Because I remember making a joke when I talked to the superintendent. I was all like, sorry about your new school year that I just fucking blew up. And he was like, haha, it's okay. He was kind of like, yeah, this is not great time. I mean, he didn't say that, but I mean, you could tell he
Yeah.
was just like
Yes.
acknowledging, yeah, the timing sucks, but obviously this is more important than the chaos of us trying to get going for the school year.
And I do remember also the first thing he said was, "I'm sorry this happened to you, and thank you for reporting it, and this is gonna help protect other kids." And so I agree. I think I wasn't sure what I was expecting either, and I know the way I am, especially when I put myself out there, like, my defenses are immediately up, and I was getting ready to, like, cuss someone out and
Mhm.
get into a fight and,
You? Ready to, like, throw down and get into a fight? I do not believe it.
but I didn't need to do that.
Mm.
He his approach was very respectful, and he did handle it well, and he did say that he was gonna have to report it to DCFS,
Mhm.
the Department of Child and Family Services. I know in other states, people call it CPS, Child Protective Services, but
Mm.
here in Illinois, CPS is known as Chicago Public Schools, so we say DCFS. So he did say he was gonna have to report to DCFS. He made it pretty clear that not to expect anything with that, just that it
Mhm.
was like a documentation thing. And he did say that DCFS had to conclude their investigation before the school could start theirs.
And I will say an important note that I have written down that was helpful for us is that so the teacher had a majority of the police report in Illinois redacted. He cannot have anything redacted in the Department of Children and Family Services report investigation, which I forgot about
Oh,
until I was reading these notes right here. So, I mean, that just goes to show like we were in, I would say August was really when we realized documentation was king and that we
yes.
needed to report with as many boards and investigators as humanly possible to create the biggest paper trail that we could. So yeah, I do think that's important because I think a lot of people along the way, and us included, we're kind of like, well, why the fuck do we have to keep doing this? There's a lot of times to have to detail your abuse to complete strangers. Like it is a lot, and it
Mhm.
does feel daunting. But I think it's just a good reminder of like there was a reason for it, and it was just to try to create like as much corroborating information across all of these boards as possible so that if one failed, we had like another one as a backup, or if one needed to rely on the other. Because, yeah, I forgot that the school had to wait on Children and Family Services in Illinois. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, this is when we notified these entities, and then,
Mhm.
like, more just kind of like, this is, I think, when we got into, "Okay, we've told all these people, but now who like, what's the flow next?" Like, I think you know what I'm trying to
Well,
say. Maybe you
yeah,
can
yeah,
word it
yeah.
better than I just did.
Well, and we live in two different states that have two different sets of laws and two different blah, 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 blah. So I will say that it felt at the beginning of all of this, it felt very Iowa is trash because our statute of limitations suck. And Illinois is queen bee because they don't have the statute of limitations and there's not like a retroactive ruling that's going to like limit us. And then it quickly within August became clear that it was like, oh, no, 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 no. Iowa is actually the ones that are going to be super helpful in this situation and not Illinois.
Yeah.
So it was a
Yes.
real flippity flop that I don't think either one of us saw coming. Because I filed the report with the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners on the 11th of August. And that was just an online form that you just put your information in there. And they have, you can report bullying or like embezzlement and like just all kinds of misconduct that could be happening within Iowa public schools. But then by the 18th, I had received a letter back from them saying they had decided to open an investigation into him based on my report. So that's 7 fucking days. I would say we did not hear back from anybody in Illinois that quickly for the most part. And I feel like Illinois was a lot more from the get go like, well, we can't do this until they do that, and they
Yes.
can't do that until this. And then it became very, very dependent on the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners pretty early on for Illinois to do anything, which was
Mhm.
really fucking infuriating. It didn't really make any sense
Right.
because
I was not expecting it.
no, because he actively at the time was living in Illinois. He was teaching in Illinois up until he was put on administrative leave, paid, let's make that clear, paid administrative leave on August 11th. And he had been teaching in that state for what? Fucking
Almost 20 years.
almost 20 years. But everybody in Illinois was like waiting on the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners. And I still don't really, it felt very like Illinois is wildly underfunded and understaffed. And that it felt to us, I'm not saying this is fact, but I think it felt to us that they didn't want to do the work of the investigations. They wanted to wait for another state to do it and then just piggyback on that ruling. Because
Mhm.
pretty much fucking nothing happened in Illinois
Not with
at all.
Isby. With ISB, I had to also file, like a form, a misconduct complaint form. So in addition to the email, I had to send the form. And that was the same day. I emailed them the same day. I heard back 11 days later. The person who emailed me, she emailed me August 16th, and she said, "ISB is in receipt of your emails and your complaint will be reviewed." And that's all that she said. And so she's
Mhm.
a special assistant to the investigator, for ISB, and I had to email her again to get connected with the actual investigator who then was like, "Let's get on a call." But yeah, they were dragging their feet. They were waiting, I feel
Mhm.
like, for Iowa and the school district, which makes sense, right? Like, the school district should investigate, but, like, the fact that, like, yeah, I didn't feel like they were doing anything, and I think if I remember correctly, Sarah, didn't you say that the investigator from ISB did say something like, "Oh, usually," or maybe someone in Iowa was saying that this is kind of common that
Yeah.
Illinois waits for Iowa, which is fucked up in itself. Like, how
Yeah.
many cases of these are there out there that it is known that, "Oh, yeah, Iowa has to do all the work before Illinois is gonna do anything."
It just sucks because, I mean, we talked about this a lot, but, like, if I hadn't found you and you had tried to come forward on your own, I think that guy would still be working at that same school right now. I really don't think anything would have happened
I
because
agree.
I just don't think anybody obviously having one victim versus two, I think is a big difference, and, we can bolster each other's experiences and stories. But really it was Iowa that came through in a clutch and, like, actually kind of zipped things up, and then Illinois, kind of followed from there. But not to jump ahead too much, but to put a timeline on this, I do want to just put out there of, like, all of that stuff happened in August. So I received the email from the Iowa Board of Investigation, uh, educational examiners, that they were going to do an investigation on August 18th, 2022. And it wasn't until August. So it was a full year, August 2023, when they actually made a determination. So
Mm,
we had to wait a year for the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners to do their investigation and make a determination. It was such a fucking long
yeah.
process
Oh
of
god. Yes.
and within that time period, we did a lot in a very short amount of time, and then we had to wait for almost a year
Yeah.
for, other people to do their investigations. So I just want people, I guess, if anyone else ever comes forward with anything, of have a realistic timeline in your mind. This shit takes a really long time, and the gears of justice are slow.
As fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point to make because and I feel like this happened a few times throughout all the investigations where there was a lot of movement and a lot of momentum,
Mhm.
and then there were months of waiting, and then we get an update and a lot of movement, and then more months of waiting. It's a mind fuck, and August was so there was so much. We sent the letters, we talked to the superintendent, we talked with DCFS, you contacted the Iowa BOE, Board of Education Examiners. We haven't gotten into this yet, but and I filed a FOIA August 9th. I posted on Facebook
Hold
after
on. What is a
okay.
FOIA?
FOIA stands for the Freedom of Information Act, and it is something that anyone could file to get information that is available to the public, such as police reports. Thank you for reminding me that people might not know what a FOIA is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So back to what you were gonna say. You were gonna say, oh, you reached out to classmates on Facebook
I did. But when did
about
you
the
end
same
up
time.
going? Yeah, all of this to say that August was just really heavy, and there was a lot happening, and then, like, things kinda halted. But when did you end up going back home, to
Oh
pick up your
God.
report?
So it looks
Was
like
this
I did
also
my
August?
probably. So I filed the police report. Well, I called it in on August 3rd. I did the full interview on August 18th. Well, my God, nothing was easy. So because oh, I forgot about all this. So I had the interview, and that they had told me, they said, we will type all this up, and then you will have a police report, and then you can have a copy of that police report, and we suggest that you have it and you keep it for your documents, right? And I was like, awesome. And then I had to email and call over and over and over to get the police report because it was like, I'm not top priority. Like my abuse happened 18 years ago. Because of statute of limitations here in Iowa, they weren't able to move forward with it. So of course they're going to prioritize active crimes that are happening. So I was like small potatoes, but we were trying to get God, fuck, I can't remember the timeline of this. Remember we needed the Iowa police report for something. What was it? It was it like this person over here is telling me you have to get this police report copied like now, 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 so that I can do my job, so that all these other dominoes can fall. But they can't talk to the police directly on their own for some goddamn reason. So then I had to keep hounding the police department here in
Which is
Iowa.
insane that you had to do it.
Oh, that's the other fucking thing. This whole thing top to bottom, nobody would talk to anybody. We had to play the middleman between all of these organizations. Like we were always the people that had to be like, okay, I'm going to contact Illinois and then let Iowa know this, and well, Illinois is now saying this, well, I is now saying that. And I literally remember telling people, here's this person's phone number, here's this person's name and email address. For the love of God, just contact them yourselves. And people would be like, I can't, or that's really not my position too. And it's like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyways, God, there's so much about this that I haven't thought about in a long time. So, anyways, I had to hound the police to get the report and then to get it like typed up and done. And then they're like, okay, it's done. And I was like, cool, email it to me. And they were like, no, I don't know if they couldn't because it's a police report. You know what I mean? Like for safety reasons. I can't remember what the deal is, but I ended up having to drive 3 hours to the county where I filed the report because you have to file the police report in the county in which the crime was committed. So these are just important roadblocks, I think, to point out because not everybody has the capacity to travel
Mhm.
hours and hours to go get a fucking police report or across the country because they have to file in a completely different state they don't live in anymore. Like there are just so many boundaries and hurdles, I think, for survivors. But I think also part of it was just that we were like, we had so many irons in the fire with so many different investigators in two different states that we were trying to do so much at the same time that everything was a lot more complicated. So yeah, I traveled back to my hometown area to pick up my police report. And I think I even had to like pay for the copy or something, $4 or something for the paper. And I was just like, motherfuckers.
Such a slap in
Come
the
on.
face.
Like I pay taxes. Couldn't my taxes cover the printed off copy of my police report of a crime committed against me? I don't know. Call me crazy. And then in my mind, I thought it would be a really great idea as I walked out of the police department carrying my 19-page police report about my grooming and abuse to go on some kind of trauma road trip where I drove around to places in my hometown area that were of significance to my grooming. And boy, howdy, was I not ready for that little road trip. I underestimated my reaction to that experience. There was like this little pond that I went to that I remember being like, the first place where he really crossed a line. And it was very, I mean, I think he said it. Like, it was just like, I'm in love with you, or he like held my hand, or I think maybe we kissed there the first time. I'd have to go back and look at my like fucking journal entries or something. Um, just like this spot that was like burned in my mind. And so like I went there and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just like sit with this space for a little while and like maybe draw a picture and like commune. And I just fucking started bawling. And I was like,
Mm.
okay, all right. Like maybe this is good, right? Like maybe this is cathartic. And I'm like, I'm getting something out of my body. Like this is a good
Yeah.
idea.
You were hanging on to something. I don't know if it was a great idea to do it that day, but, do you feel like it was a release?
I do think it was a release, and I don't know why I was called to do it, but I think it goes back to like what we were talking about throughout this whole podcast of like there are things that you avoid because they hurt and you don't want to look at them and you don't want to feel them. And I had realized there were physical locations that I had avoided for a very long time because they were holding on to that pain, or they were just like scary spaces to me because I didn't want to be back in that space and feel whatever I was going to feel from it. So I do think I think it was healing, and I did it again about a year later with the cemetery. You'd said in an earlier recording, was I the girl in the cemetery? Which was there's a cemetery in the area where I grew up that the teacher took our entire class to on a field trip around Halloween to like tell ghost stories or whatever. And then he took me back there when I was still his student and had sex with me in the woods behind the graveyard, which is very disturbing to think about now. And I went back to those woods, I would say the winter after all of the investigations had wrapped up, and that felt really different um than this original trauma road trip did. And that was a really awesome experience to me because it made me realize how far I had come as far as processing all this stuff. That like I had stripped him of his power, literally. Like he had
Mm.
lost so much because of you and I. And so that experience of going back to that space felt completely different. Whereas when I went back, in this August, September window, all we had done is like sent emails and knew that people are investigating things, but nobody had made any determinations.
Yeah.
Nothing had really been done besides him being put on administrative leave. And I think at the time my brain was like, haha, like we've won and I can do this now. And I was not ready to do it. And so I went to the pond, cried, and then I went to his apartment building where he had lived at the time when all of my abuse happened. And that is when I absolutely lost my shit in the parking lot and was like hysterical. And I was like texting my sister and texting my high school friend group because we're still like best buds forever. Hi, ladies. And I was just telling them, like, I came to get my police report. I, for some reason, decided I needed to go on some kind of trauma road trip. And now I am absolutely hysterical sitting in this parking lot and can't leave. Like, I mean, I was like hyperventilating, crying. And I don't know why I thought, it's like you go to the conference. It's like, I don't know why I thought this wasn't
Yeah.
going to be really hard and upsetting. Because I parked my car right where I used to park my car when I would go to
Ugh.
his apartment
Oh my
because I had to
god.
hide my car behind the building so that nobody would see my
Mhm.
car. Like,
Yeah.
there was this whole system to it. And there's just stuff that you forget. And I parked there and I was like, I haven't looked at this chain link fence in 18 years. I'm looking at this power line that I haven't seen in 18 years. Like, the fire escape staircase up to the backside of his apartment building. Like, I remember smoking cigarettes on that with him. I remember the bedroom window that was the room where I was abused. Like it was not good and it was in
Yeah.
my body and it was
Your
not
body
great.
remembered.
Oh shit, dude. It was rough. It was real, real rough. But I will say the silver lining of the experience is my sister came and found me. Like she said, drop a pin so I know where you're at. And she came over to the parking lot and like sat in my car with me.
Oh.
Um, and we like cried and then she made me laugh because that's how my family, we all deal with trauma is laughing. And then my high school friends showed up. Same thing. They like figured out where I was at and they all showed up in my one friend's car and they had like chocolate and flowers and they
Oh
were
my
like
god.
we're going to get the fuck out of here. Like we don't need to be here anymore.
I'm so
Um
happy you have friends like that
yeah,
and
so it was
family.
like a really awesome, terrible experience. And then, I had brought this like witchy salt thing with me. I had made this little like spell bag and I was like, I'm going to go and like sprinkle this in the apartment building, like where his apartment was, as a way to let go or cleanse myself. But girl, I was skipping ahead so many steps. I was just like, beep, bop, a boop. I'm going to drop some salt and it'll be fine. And my high school friends are like, "Are you fucking crazy? Like, you can't go into this apartment building. Like, you don't even. What are you doing?" And I was all like, "I'm gonna do it." And I went up the stairwell, and like, I shouldn't have been able to get into that building, but the door didn't latch because the building did not seem like it's being taken care of well. And I went into the building, Diana, and I don't know what is going on in that building, but it smelled exactly the same.
Oh,
Like
no.
the
Wow.
smell in my mind that is the teacher's smell, I realize now is that building. Like it was 100% the smell of that building. And so walking in there and having that like sense memory was so fucking overwhelming and like triggering in a way that I was not prepared for. I remember I just ran up to the door of what was his apartment and like threw the salt down and I was like, ah! And I just ran away and I was like, oh no. And then we
Oh
went to
my
Starbucks. Me and my high school friends
god.
went to Starbucks and I cried a little bit more at Starbucks. And then I drove 3 hours home and it was a stupid, great, wonderful, terrible experience. So just don't rush your process, folks. Give yourself some
It's so
grace.
tempting. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that the day that you are getting or having to drive all the way there to pick up the report, there's a part of you that wants to keep feeling it, like, "Okay, how deep can we really get right now?" I totally get why something in you decided this is the right time for this, and I'm really happy that you could go back, all that time later after this first time and have a little bit more of a being more in control of yourself and your emotions to
Yeah.
be able to do what you needed to do with that space.
And I do think it's interesting because I think you and I talked about this a lot of so much of this experience of coming forward was emails and phone calls and we were doing so much but nothing we were doing was physical. I think that was part of it. Is it's like it was all very heady, it was all very psychological, it was all emotional, but the every single time we had to give a report, it got a little less emotional, at least for me, right? Because then you're just like, "Okay, I've done this 3 times before. What do you wanna know?" Right? And it just kinda starts to get easier and easier to talk about, which is good, but I think I really craved I like what you just said where you said, "How can I sit in this more?" Or, "How can I lean into this?" Or, "How can I feel this more?" Because I do think I had such a disconnect between this is really hard, but it's not physically hard. And I'm like physically not doing anything and I'm not going anywhere. And we had to just wait for so many other people that I do think that was a big part of why I felt drawn to go back there is it was something I could physically do myself and
Mhm.
something that I could like then physically feel, even though it didn't feel good. I don't know, dude. I needed to get something out. Like it was just all getting very stuck up in my emotional business, as it were.
You're emotionally constipated.
I was, and I took a big old emotional dump that day, and it felt pretty good. And it felt really wonderful to be surrounded by family and friends,
Yeah.
and I will say that that is something that I would also suggest to anybody that's going through anything is like if you have people that you can trust and that you feel safe with, like let people in and let them take care of you because I do think it is such a you need it. You need to be taken care of, but then also can be such a healing part of the process is just reminder of like, yeah, this terrible thing happened to you, but like you are truly loved and truly taken care of by all these other people. And I think it could be something to really hold on to when shit is not going well.
Yeah. Surround yourself with community and people who uplift you and support you. Like you said,
Yeah.
I think our intro episode is going to be hard, and if you're going through this and processing and doing the hard work, people around you who love you are going to stick around.
Yeah.
So,
And the people that are
yeah.
like, you're being weird and avoid you, well, then go fuck off. Like you don't need to be around those people anyways.
Yeah, those
Um,
aren't your people.
No. What do you remember, Diana? Like the month of August, what was Diana doing? Were you just I feel like you were just fucking like tunnel on to the next. Yeah, we really processed this all flippy floppy from each other a little bit.
August, yeah, August was like I said, it was a lot. So in the middle of August, I think it was like August 19th, I posted on the high school's alumni page
Mm.
and got a lot of responses like immediately from former classmates. And I do want to talk about that, but I think that that is maybe something for next week's episode or next time's episode because there's just so much to get into with the various
Mhm.
responses that I got. I do, and Sarah, you don't have to, but I do want to read my letter because,
Oh.
for anyone who is thinking about this, if I was a listener and thinking, okay, well, yeah, maybe I can also send a letter, but I wouldn't even know what I would write in that letter. So that's why I want to share what I wrote to give people some kind of idea. And it's not saying this is how you should do it.
Yes, I think it's a good idea because I think we both just want to make it clear. We are not giving anyone legal advice. We are not experts on anything besides our lived experiences. But yeah, I do think it's a good thing to kind of just color what was said because I don't know what would most what how would you know how we didn't know how to write these letters. Like, I mean, what were we supposed to just say? Like one sentence, this is my name, this is his name, okay, bye. It was a
Yeah,
hard thing to write.
it was, and again, before we sent it out, we did have, an attorney, look it over and let us know what to remove, what to maybe add. So, this is not legal advice, but just for an added layer of, comfort, I don't know, just know that we did have an attorney look at it. Okay, so it is a little long, so that's another thing. Bear with me, please. The email I sent on the 5th of August, 2022, to the Illinois State Board of Education, school district and school board, and superintendent. Below, you will read something I started as a therapeutic exercise, then considered sending to my abuser, and am now sharing with you. There is a chance I might share this with someone else. It took years for me to get far enough removed to finally realize how wrong our quote unquote relationship was. I was a kid with a crush. You were the adult. You should have set boundaries. I am finally as old or even 1 year older, I don't remember, as you were when I first met you in 2006. I think back to the ways I tried to get close to you and how you just let me take things a little further each time until eventually I show up to where you live. What also astounds me is the rule you had about not letting me inside your apartment until I turned 18, but you had no problem having sex with me in my car outside your apartment when I was 17 and your student. I have also realized all the twisted ways you made me feel like it was my responsibility to keep you safe and keep your job safe. I know I wasn't the first student you got close to because you told me yourself, and I probably haven't been the last. Do you remember when I brought up concerning texts from you to students you had in class after I graduated? You quoted Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused about how you get older but they stay the same age. I was too young at the time to understand how messed up that response was. I remember when you sang me Dear Chicago by Ryan Adams in your classroom one morning very early, before most people were in the building. You never objected to me coming in very early or staying late. After you sang the song, you hugged and kissed me on the cheek. I felt so excited and couldn't help but tell Mike that I had a secret later that day. I remember you came over to us in the computer lab and he told you I had a secret, and my stomach sank because of the way your face changed when you heard what Mike said. I remember thinking, oh fuck, he's so mad I just messed up everything. I lied to you later about what the secret was that he was talking about. From then on, I felt like I had to protect us, but at the same time, I wanted everyone to know. I told Juan about the kiss, Amber, Becca, and I think Deanna as well. I don't know what has become of you over the years, other than you're still working with kids. Are you still texting them at night? Are you still using the paper to get close to kids, to spend extra time with them before and after school and on the weekends? Have you learned boundaries? For a while, I had a dream in which I went back to your apartment, got inside somehow, and looked for things to take back. In the dreams, those things were materials such as books, posters, statues. Sometimes in the dream, you would come back and catch me there. Sometimes I got out right before you got back. Sometimes it was just me sneaking in, and other times I had help from my friends. Ever since I've acknowledged to myself that you groomed me and that it wasn't my fault, I've only had that dream once. Whatever I'm looking for in my dream, I don't think I'll ever be able to get it back. I don't want anything from you in waking life. I just want you to know that I see it now. I see what you did and what you have been doing. I'm not mad at any one person who suspected or tolerated the situation. There was nothing anyone could do. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. No one could have done anything to stop my abuse except you. I feel myself becoming the person I was on my way to becoming. I can never get back the ages of 16 through 25 or anything else you took from me, but I'm slowly healing from all you did to me during that time in my life. I feel like peeling off layers of dead, burnt skin to shed off the damage from your toxicity, your phoniness, your alcoholism, your narcissism, your mind games, your racism, your influence, and your abuse. It is not my responsibility to protect you anymore. The teacher is a current threat to children in your community, and I ask you to open an investigation into his trail of sexual misconduct with students. He was my junior English teacher in 2006, which is where he first learned of my taste in music because of a class assignment. He started making me CDs. These were CDs with a personal touch. He laminated printed images and gave each CD its own title attached. So I attached pictures as well to this email. He gave me memorabilia of my favorite band attached. After junior English, I enrolled in journalism 1, 2, and also in an independent study with him. We had each other's phone numbers. He had phone numbers for most, if not all, the kids in the journalism program. We started texting more, and he continued to pull me in closer. He would talk to me about other students and other teachers. I felt different than the other students. As I mentioned in the drafted letter above to the teacher, I know that he had inappropriate sexual relationships with kids in Iowa before coming to Illinois. During our involvement, in parentheses, I put relationship doesn't sit well. I saw him cross boundaries with kids after I graduated. He verbally and mentally abused me because I brought up inappropriate text messages to kids. I doubt the predatory behaviors and sexual grooming of children have stopped since I broke physically free from him in 2015. In April 22, I filed criminal sexual assault charges against the teacher with the police department in the city where he sexually assaulted me multiple times. I drove my car to the teacher's apartment while I was a student. The apartment building is locked, meaning he would have needed to buzz me in for access to his second floor unit. I did not even need to be buzzed in the first time I drove over to his apartment because he was standing outside waiting and got into my car. My life has not been the same since that night. The investigation went on for 3 months, and my experience with that could be an entire letter itself. But the most revealing thing that I personally gained from the investigation was a disturbing revelation of just how good he was at this. He was so good at making me feel like I had to cover his tracks, and I didn't even realize how much I was protecting him and hurting myself at the same time. Also mentioned in the drafted letter is that I want nothing from my abuser. I also want nothing from the school or anything else other than to see the teacher lose access to children. He cannot be allowed to leave the school and obtain a teaching position in a different city in Illinois, or go back to Iowa where he has already abused kids. Please help me hold the teacher accountable for harm he has already committed and stop him from making schools an unsafe place for kids. Allowing him to continue getting away with what he has already done only emboldens abusers like him to keep hurting others. Adults who repeatedly initiate sexual relationships with kids cannot continue to be allowed such easy access to them, especially when these adults have a responsibility to keep kids safe. Lastly, it is my hope that anyone reading this who has a story to tell comes forward and knows they are not alone. Should you have questions or would like to speak more, please contact me. I am more than willing to help schools and school leadership keep building safe for our students. Thank you for your time and attention. Diana Mondragon, class of 2008, my phone number, and a picture of me the year I met the teacher, where I also have braces and
Ugh.
some long, stiff bangs.
Well, we won't hold the bangs against you. It was the style at the time.
Whew.
Uh, so I mean, that's a big woman email to have to send. Like, that's a scary thing to have to send. Not only to write it, because I mean, I think it's interesting that yours started as a therapy writing homework assignment, essentially, to write a letter to him, which I do think is a good assignment for anybody processing anything. Even if that letter is just something you burn or you never send and it's just for you, I do think it can be very therapeutic to write that
Yeah.
stuff out. But then to actually send it to, a school district, among other people is a pretty trippy experience. I mean, because I mean, even after the police report, like it still felt so insulated and
Mm.
we still felt like in a silo. And I guess I remember this sending these emails feeling like, holy shit, here we go. Right. Like we are about to open Pandora's box and we cannot fucking close it. And we don't really know what's going to happen to
At
him.
all.
And we don't know what's going to happen to us. But we're going to it was just a classic like leap of faith. Like it really
Mhm.
was just like, okay, this is my truth and I'm going to say it. And I have no control on the outcome. Here we go. Like, is a pretty daunting place to be. Yeah, how did you feel after you sent your email?
On the defense.
Oh, yeah,
I
that's right.
Yeah, on the defense, but it felt good because it is something like I as we talked about, I was ready to send them back in April, not even a week after you and I met. I was
Mhm.
ready to send it. So it felt like something that was a long time coming. It felt really good to communicate my experience to the school district, even though there's probably no one there from when I was in high school. I mean, there's definitely still teachers there, but, the administrative staff and, like, the school board
Mhm.
president, they're not the same people, but it still felt good to say it to there's a reason why in therapy, you do the chair exercise where you talk to the person in the chair and there's no one there, it feels good to just express yourself. I It was terrifying and extremely vulnerable, but it felt good.
I was just reading through my email that I sent to my school. And I forgot how, I came off a little Diana hot in it that I didn't remember, like, well,
I love when I can
un
influence you.
you do influence me, but there is an unfortunate pattern in the school that I grew up in. I was not the only student that had had a quote unquote relationship with a teacher. It was very normalized, and I still think there are other, students of the school where I grew up that have their own stories to tell, and their own experiences. I didn't realize that my email was a lot of, like, I wrote a formal letter, and I sent it to the Illinois school, and then I also sent it to the Iowa school, and I just attached it to the Iowa school, and then wrote my own secondary email to the Iowa school of, like, also, I think there's others. I hope that y'all are doing better than
Yeah.
you were then, kind of a deal. But again, to your point, it's hard because it's not the same people. It's not the same administration. It's not the same employees. There's a few teachers that were still there from when I was there, but, like, it's hard to hold a group of people accountable when it's not the same group of people. Like, it just and so much time has passed and you don't know what the policies are that have changed. But I did still feel like it was really important to call that out because it felt like such a bigger issue than just what happened to me at my school. And we can get into that in our next episode where we talk about, like, talking to classmates because that came up a lot. Like, when I
Yeah.
talked to my classmates was, oh yeah, you and this person and that person and this person, and it was like, holy shit.
Somewhere in my notes, I have somewhere that you counted at least 7. That is a lot. That's a
That
lot.
I heard tell of, right? So this is all rumor mill, blah, blah, blah. But as you and I both know, very rarely is there smoke where there is not fire when it comes to something like that. It just snowballed into a much bigger conversation for me on a more, like, smaller community level about, the history of the school that I grew up in. Yeah. So anyway, so I guess I technically wrote two emails, but I had not reread the one that I sent to my school, and I was like, "Ooh, girl."
I'm glad that you have no regrets because it needs to be called out. And even if they're not, I think especially if they're not the same administrative team as before, the culture of grooming students and marrying them
Mm.
is part of that school. So unless someone changes that culture, people are going to keep thinking that's acceptable. I think it is appropriate that you told this group of probably new people that, hey,
Mhm.
hope you're doing better. Hope you're looking into this. Hope you're got some policies or that it's not as just like, "Oh, yeah, this is just a thing that happens if you go to school here."
Which was the vibe when I was growing up for sure, and we can get into that more in another episode. But yeah, and I would just like to put out there, my school board at the school where I grew up, when I had sent my email, two of the members of the school board were kids that were in my class. So I had to send an email detailing my grooming and sexual abuse to two guys that I had known since I was 5 and were, like, in my class. Like, I wrote in
Yeah.
the email, like, I was more nervous to send this email than I was to do the police report. Because small towns and people, and then you're thinking, "Are they gonna disclose? Do I want them to disclose? Do I not want them to disclose?" And it was really hard because they were on the school board, they couldn't talk to me, but the
Mm,
two people that were on school board were people that, like, were close with the teacher, and so I felt like would have been really important people to be able to talk to get investigative information from, because so like we had to go out and interview people essentially and go hunting for proof of our own abuse, which is
Yeah.
also an insane burden on survivors. But also like was a pretty cool experience at the same time, and I think, we'll talk about that, but like because they were on the board, I wasn't able to talk to them. So I wasn't able to confirm certain storylines. It just complicated everything on a level that I didn't see coming, and then I would get report backs from like my high school friends of like, "Oh shit, dude, everyone's talking about your email." Blah. But it's like, except for these two dudes because they can't.
Which seems like a problem in itself.
Right? Like it kind of seems like in that situation there should be some kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they could have talked to the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners. They just couldn't talk to me, to be clear. Do you know what I mean? So, like,
Okay.
I think they would have been able, like, administration at the school probably was able to talk to them, and the state board probably would have been able to talk to them, but they just couldn't talk to me, and they couldn't talk to others, which makes sense, right? They're a part of the school district. They can't just be off running their mouth stops, which it makes sense. And then my whole town found out because I will say the school district here in Iowa, I thought did a good job of after I filed my report with them. So they sent out an email to every parent at the school district and said there has been an allegation made against a teacher for sexual misconduct. But they were like, to make it clear, this allegation and this employee has not been here for this many years, blah, blah, blah. But I was really surprised by that. Like they really got ahead of it. But then it's a small town. So it caused a shitload of gossip and everybody was trying to figure it out. And that's really where it became clear to me because one of my best friends called me and she was like, dude, because there's a thing in my town, like a carnival that happens in my town. And it's like the one big event in my town. And it happened like the week after that email went out. And she was like, it's all anybody was talking about. Like it was perfect timing. She's like, girl, you were dominating the carnival. But what my friend said, she's like, but the really fucked up thing I noticed is watching everybody try to figure out who it was, how long that fucking list was of guesses,
Wow.
how long the list was of which teachers and which students. And she was like, and everyone was obsessed with figuring out who it was. And I remember her saying, at one point, I realized that's not even important. Like the takeaway from this conversation should be we were all able to list name after name after name. That should be the bigger fucked up conversation that we're having.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was just a
Yeah, it's just a thing
trippy,
that happens. It's like, yeah, it happens
yeah.
here.
It was a trippy thing. So, anyways, I fucked up the town carnival.
Some might say that you made it more interesting and
I mean, I'm
fun to
sure
be
it was a
at.
good time. I'm sure people were like, "Ooh, juicy gossip and a cocktail sitting on the sidewalk. Sounds like a good time."
For some reason, that reminded me of something I wanted to say earlier, which was before we sent the letters, you saw something on the teacher's Twitter account. At the time, it was Twitter. And it said something like, Wilco's album is coming out, going to Iowa, road trip, da 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 da. It's going to be a great summer.
I forgot we were creeping on his Twitter back then.
Yeah.
Remember after he got put on paid administrative leave? Like, so that happened in like August. And then he had like a meme like at New Year's that was like how the year started. And it's like the beginning of Reservoir Dogs when they're like all happy. And it's like how the year ended. And it's like the guy in the back seat like shot and bleeding. And we both were like,
That's because of you, but also because of us.
yes. And then I think he figured it out and he turned off his Twitter account.
But yeah, next week, let's talk more about reaching out to former classmates because there's a lot that I want to get into about
Yeah.
that.
What's our homework assignment for our listeners this week? To not get sued?
I picked last week, so it's your turn. Homework
Oh,
assignment.
sweet mama jamma. Okay. I would say, dear listener, your how to bloom after whatever your variety of trauma is. Don't rush your process,
That's a good one.
you can't rush the internal process or the external process. Then my therapist once said, I one time literally drove through a storm and almost directly into a tornado and almost killed myself. And then I realized maybe sometimes the way around is just sitting your ass still and waiting for the thing to go by. And I was like,
That's
okay,
perfect. That's
also
perfect.
a good tip. So,
Yeah.
there are times for going through and there are times for rest. You'll fucking get there when you're meant to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Take a beat. Who knows? Maybe sitting in it will inspire a different course of action or ideas or something. That's a great homework assignment for our dear listener, Sarah.
And for ourselves.
And for ourselves. Yes. And for ourselves. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. And we have a website, bloomingafterpod.com, also an Instagram, also bloomingafterpod. And on our website, you can find a contact us form, but you can also email us directly at bloomingaftergrooming@gmail.com. And
we also now have a TikTok account, but we are elder millennials and don't really know how to use TikTok.
Whoa. I'm not an elder millennial. I'm just a millennial.
Okay, well, I'm an elder millennial and I set up the TikTok account. So if it's done wrong, you're welcome.
All right. Well, take it easy. Goodbye.
Bye. So bad. Things that I often have to explain to people.
Oh my God.
Woo! This chair doesn't have a back. Oh my God, I'm blushing.
Oh my God.
God. Okay, sorry.
I think you need a different chair.
I tried it, but it's too high. It doesn't have a back. It's loud. All right. Sorry. Statute of limitation laws.